Hi guys, I'm back with another Pokemon crochet pattern video, and this time we're going to be making this little Clodsire plush that you can see here. Now this is a little bit more of an intermediate pattern. It does involve a lot of colour changes, and so I thought it'd be useful if I wrote down a little list on the things it'd be helpful to know before you give this one a go. It's important that for this pattern you're able to use the yarn under technique and invisible decreases as well. Please be warned that if you don't do either of these, especially the decreasing, your colour changes may be a bit off or wonky compared to the pattern, especially when you reach the tail. Now of course it's essential you know how to do colour changes since you will be doing them a lot in this pattern. It's important to remember that when you change colour you need to do so in the last yarn over of the stitch before to get the new colour ready for the stitch number that's actually written in the pattern. If this doesn't make a ton of sense to you now, then don't worry about it too much. It's a lot easier to show than explain, so it will probably make a lot more sense when I actually show you in a few minutes time. And finally, it's a lot easier for this pattern that you're able to carry your unused yarn along over the back of your stitches while you're crocheting. You'll see for the whole time I'm crocheting the body, I'll be holding the yarn colour that I'm not using to the piece using my middle finger and then just crocheting over it. This is something else that is also a little easier to see than explain, so hang tight and hopefully you'll see what I mean. So with all of that out of the way, here's all of the tools and materials you'll need for this one. So the main thing is that you're going to need your dark grey and light grey yarn to make the body, fins and legs of Clodsire, and white to make the spots that go on top of his body. I'm using double knit yarn for this pattern and a 2.5mm hook. You'll also need some black embroidery thread and a sewing needle for the face detail, and of course some stuffing as well. I'd highly recommend using a stitch marker for this pattern. It's really important to keep track of your stitches to make sure your colour changes are in the right place. I'll be using one as I crochet the body in this video so that you'll be able to easily see my rounds too, so hopefully that helps a bit. Okay, so let's get started now that we've gone over all the info you'll need. We're going to get working on the body. So we're going to start off making a slip knot using your dark grey yarn, and you're going to chain 4. For the second round you're going to single crochet 1 in the second chain from your hook, and on the last yarn over of this stitch you're going to grab your light grey and loop it onto your hook to get ready for the colour change to be in the next stitch. Then you're going to single crochet again in the same chain with your light grey, and you can see here that I'm carrying the dark grey along with me here by crocheting over it. Increase in the next chain, and then you're going to single crochet 1 in the end chain and do the same as before, looping over the dark grey yarn to introduce it ready for the 6th stitch. Then you can single crochet 3 more in this end chain, and you want to slowly turn the chain as you do. You can see I'm now carrying my light grey yarn along with me in the back of my stitches by crocheting over it. And now we're going to work down the opposite side of the chain to make an oval shape. So increase again into the other side of your second chain. And to finish off, you have one more increase in the other side of your first chain. So this is what you should have at the end of your second round. You should have those 4 light grey stitches at the bottom there and the dark grey on top. I know this part is a little bit fiddly, so it may take a few goes to get it completely with all that colour changing and carrying and crocheting around the chain, but I think once you're over this first hurdle you'll find it a lot easier from here on out. So we're going to get right into our third round. What we're going to do is single crochet 1 and then increase in the next stitch and repeat this 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. When you get to the end of your second stitch here, we're going to switch colours on the last yarn over as usual to start crocheting in light grey for our third stitch. Then you'll keep repeating your single crochet and increase until you get to your 7th stitch. At the end of this one, you're going to switch back to your dark grey, ready for your 8th stitch. That's all the colour changes for this round out of the way, so you'll just keep repeating your single crochet and increases as usual until you get to the end. So we're getting into our 4th round. Hopefully you're starting to get into the rhythm of it a bit now. You're going to be single crocheting 2 and then increasing for this one, repeating 6 times for a total of 24 stitches. Remember to loop in your light grey on the last yarn over of your 2nd stitch, ready for the 3rd stitch. Then you can continue on until your 10th stitch, where you'll repeat the same, picking up your dark grey, ready to switch colours in your 11th stitch. Then you can just continue repeating your single crochet 2 and increase until the end of the round. For the 5th round, you'll be single crocheting 3 and then increasing and repeating this 6 times for a total of 30 stitches. You'll need to loop in your light grey on the last yarn over of your second stitch, ready for that colour change in the third stitch. You can see me doing this here. And then you'll loop back in your dark grey in the last yarn over of your 13th stitch, ready for your 14th. Then as usual, you'll continue to repeat your single crochets and increases until the end of the round. You might be happy to hear that this is the last increasing round you'll need to do for the next few rounds, so after this one is done, you'll just need to focus on your colour changes, which makes it a little bit easier. For round 6, you're just going to be single crocheting 1 in each stitch in the round, so you'll still have your total of 30 stitches at the end. Remember to loop in your light grey at the end of your first stitch for that important colour change in your second stitch. Then you can just continue on normally until the end of your 15th stitch, where you'll loop your dark grey back in. The last thing you need to do for this round is that to get ready for the next round, you're going to loop your light grey back in at the end of your 30th stitch. You can see me doing that here, so I've got the light grey ready to go for the next round. So I'm just going to quickly turn my body the right way out. You should have something that looks a little bit like this so far. Round 7 is another one where you just need to single crochet 1 in each stitch, keeping your total of 30. Since you've already got your light grey looped in there, you can just get straight in and not have to worry about any colour changes until your 16th stitch. Then when you get to this stitch, you can loop in your dark grey on the last yarn over. You're also going to do the same as in the last round and loop back in your light grey on the last yarn over of your 30th stitch right here at the end. So just a quick little pause here. If you're finding that carrying along your colours is causing them to peek through your stitches a little bit like it is here, then don't worry, this is completely fixable. All you need to do is grab your sewing needle and use it to catch the yarn and just pull it back onto the inside. It might look a little bit messy on the inside here now, but that's okay since nobody sees that part. And there you go, you can see it's looking a lot better now. So let's move on to our 8th round. You'll be single crocheting in each stitch around again. And you can keep going as normal until the 16th stitch, where on the last yarn over you'll change your colour to dark grey, and that's all you have to worry about for this round. Here's what you should have at the end of round 8. You can see we're just building up the light grey here to make the first curve upwards. For round number 9, you need to single crochet in each stitch again, looping in your light grey at the end of your first stitch. And then looping back to dark grey at the end of your 16th stitch. Moving on to round number 10, this is another single crochet in each stitch round. You'll need to join in with your light grey at the end of your second stitch. Then you're going to change back to your dark grey here on the last yarn over of your 15th stitch as usual. For round 11, you're going to single crochet in each stitch again. Remember to loop in your light grey here at the end of your third stitch. And here I am looping my dark grey at the last yarn over of my 14th stitch. So for round 12 we're going to single crochet 3 and then decrease and repeat this 6 times for a total of 24 stitches. You're going to join in with your light grey at the end of your second stitch. And then loop in with your dark grey again at the end of your 13th stitch. Then you can just continue to repeat your 3 single crochets in the decrease until you reach the end of your round. So here's what we have now. You can see that we're starting to taper inwards a bit, so it should look a little bit like this. Round 13 is another single crochet round. You'll need to loop in your light grey as usual on the last yarn over of your first stitch. And now we're switching back to our dark grey here at the end of our 14th stitch. And then you can carry on as normal until the end. Now round 14 is exactly the same as round 13. So you'll need to loop your light grey in on the last yarn over of your first stitch. And your dark grey in the last yarn over of your 14th stitch. Here's how it's looking again so far. We're about to decrease to get started on the tail. Remember, all the decreases you do should be invisible decreases, or it may affect the pattern of the colour changes. So for round 15 you're going to decrease 1, and on the last yarn over of this decrease you're going to introduce your light grey. Then you're going to single crochet 11, then you're going to loop in your dark grey on the last yarn over of your 11th single crochet that you've made, which is your 12 stitch in total. Then you'll single crochet 1 more stitch. And finally you're going to decrease 5 times in a row here to finish off the round. Now because we're doing invisible decreases, which are in the front loops only, you're going to lose your carried yarn here, but that's okay, we'll just pick it up again at the start of the next round. So I'm just taking a quick pause here to stuff what we have so far before the hole we're working with gets any smaller. So with that all looking good, we're moving on to round 16. You're going to single crochet 1, and you can see here I'm picking up my light grey yarn again to continue carrying it around in the back. I'm leaving it long inside here so there's no pulling on the plush. You don't want it to be tight at all, so make sure to relax it out here. Now we're going to decrease, and on the last yarn over of this decrease, as usual, we're going to introduce our light grey. Then you can continue to repeat your single crochet and decrease until you get to your 7th stitch, which is one of your single crochets. You'll loop in your dark grey yarn on the last yarn over, do your decrease in the next stitch and continue repeating this pattern as normal until you get to the end of the round. I'm just adding in a bit more stuff into the body to make sure that's feeling good. And we can start on round 17, where we are going to single crochet 1 and increase and repeat this 6 times to get to 18 stitches. On the last yarn over of your third stitch, you'll introduce your light grey. And then at the end of your 11th stitch, you'll loop in your dark grey, and then you can continue to repeat your single crochet and increase 2 more times until you get to the end. Here's how it's looking. I'm just pausing again here to add a little bit more stuffing. So round 18 is our very last round where we have to worry about increasing, so we're on the home stretch now. You're going to single crochet 2 and then increase to get a total of 24 stitches again. You'll need to loop your light grey yarn in on the last yarn over of your third stitch. Then introduce your dark grey at the end of your 16th stitch. Then you can continue with your single crochet 2 and increase 2 more times to get to the end here. So here's where you should be at now. We've finished our increases for the tail, so our next round is going to be another single crochet in every stitch, which is nice and simple. You'll need to loop your light grey back in at the end of your 3rd stitch. And then pick up your dark grey on the last yarn over of your 16th stitch, and then you can just crochet as normal until you get to the end. Here's how it's looking at the moment. Now for round 20, you're going to be single crocheting around again. Remember to pick up your light grey on the last yarn over of your 4th stitch. Then pick up your dark grey on the last yarn over of your 16th stitch. Then you can carry on as normal to the end of the round. So we're on to decreasing again now. For round 21 you'll need to single crochet 2 and then decrease in your next stitch for a total of 18 stitches. Now, as usual, I'm sure you're experts in it now, you'll need to pick up your light grey on the last yarn over of your 4th stitch. And then loop in your dark grey at the end of your 11th stitch. In round 22, you're going to single crochet 1 and decrease 1 and repeat this 6 times to get 12 stitches in total. So you're going to pick up your light grey at the end of your 4th stitch, which is a decrease here. And then you'll switch back to dark grey on the last yarn over of your 7th stitch, which is one of your single crochets. After picking up your dark grey, you'll be very glad to hear that this was your last colour change that you needed to do for this pattern. So you can see here I completely dropped the light grey and stopped carrying it behind me because we don't need it anymore. Here's what we have now. We have just one more round to go, and I'm going to completely chop off my light grey yarn here and put it inside the tail, as well as stuffing the rest of the tail as well. So for the last round, you're just going to decrease in every stitch, which should take you down to 6 stitches in total. And here we go, we're all done with the body. Congratulations if you got this far. I know this isn't an easy pattern to make at all, but the good part is you're finished with the hardest bit now, so well done. I'm just going to fasten off here and finish any stuffing I want to do, give it a little bit of a squish to make sure it's stuffed evenly throughout. So now I'm going to thread my needle and close up the hole that we have left here. I'm going to do this by weaving my needle through the front loops of each of my 6 stitches and then pulling hard to tighten up the hole. And with that we can put this aside for assembly later. So we're going to start on the top fin now. You'll only need to make one of these using your dark grey yarn, and you're going to start off by making a slip knot and chaining 12. Then for the second row here, you're going to start in the second chain from the hook and single crochet 11. This is what you should have at the end. We're going to fasten off here and then we're going to weave in one of your ends. It doesn't really matter which one, but I tend to keep the longest one that I have for sewing and get rid of the shorter one. And that's it. We can also put this aside for later, and we're going to start on the white dots that go on top of Clodsire's body. You're going to need to make 6 of these in total. So for the one and only round for these, we're simply going to single crochet 6 in a magic ring using your white yarn. Then you can fasten off, easy as that, and I'm going to thread my end onto the needle and do an invisible fasten off here. So I'm going to thread the needle through the loops of the first stitch I made. Then go through the back loop of the last stitch I made. And that should give you a nice clean finish like this. I like to weave the end in and out just a little bit to secure it there. And then I'm going to leave that end and thread my magic ring end onto my needle. and weave this one in and cut it off. And that's it. Remember, you want to make 6 of these, so make sure you have them all before moving on to assembly. So the last thing we need to make are Clodsire's 4 little legs, so we're going to grab our light grey yarn for this and start by single crocheting 6 in your magic ring. For round 2, we're going to single crochet 1 in each stitch to keep our total of 6 stitches. So here I like to turn the leg around the correct way. I'm just using the back of my crochet hook to do this here. And round 3, which is the final round, I'm going to repeat the second round by just single crocheting 1 in each stitch for a total of 6 stitches. So now we can fasten off, and I'm going to cut the magic ring end here a little bit shorter and use this to stuff the inside of my leg. I also like to do something a bit similar to the invisible fasten off we used for the white spots. So I'm going to thread my finishing end onto the needle and put it through the first stitch of the round. Then loop back and put it through the back loop of my last stitch. Then I'll weave it in and out a couple times to secure. I just feel like it makes the finish a little bit neater and more even, but you don't have to do this if you prefer not to. So this is what you should have at the end. Remember, you need 4 legs and 6 white dots along with your 1 body and fin. So when you have all you need, let's get started on assembly. Now I like to begin here by pinning the middle fin and the legs to my Clodsire just to try and get a feel for where the centre point is, and also to test out the legs to make sure he's sitting properly. Now the general positions that I have for the legs is, for the front legs they're going to be sat between rounds 6 to 8, and the back legs they're going to be sat between rounds 12 to 13. They all sit about 1 or 2 stitches below the little colour change curve that you made on the body. I'm going to revisit the legs in a moment, but for now we're going to get started with sewing on the top fin. So this fin should be positioned on rounds 8 to 18, right in the middle on top of the body. And I'm just going to thread my needle in through the body, then through the fin, and just repeat this over and over until I get from one side of the fin to the other and it's all attached. Then once you're done, you can thread your needle through to the bottom of the body, out through a hole in between the stitches. And you can tie a knot and thread it back through that same hole to hide the knot inside the body, and you can snip the rest of that end off. Okay, so onto the legs. I'm just testing out how he sits here and adding in some extra pins. Remember, you'll want the legs to go between round 6 and 8 and 12 and 13. They should be just 1 or 2 stitches beneath the tallest point of the light grey on the sides of the body here. So I'm going to start off with the left side, and I'm just going to poke my needle in and out of the body, then weave it in and out of the leg, and just repeat this going all the way around the leg until the whole thing is secured to the body. Then when you're happy everything's secured, you can do the same as we did with the fins. Just thread your needle through a hole, tie a knot, poke it back through and snip the excess off. So I'm just going to quickly speed through attaching the rest of the legs here. I'm just following the exact same thing I did before of weaving the needle in and out through the body and legs. So pins are really valuable here. I'd highly recommend using them because you need to make sure your little friend is sitting properly, and you preferably want to do that before you put in all the hard work of sewing the legs on. Here I am finishing up on the legs. Here's how it should be looking at this point. He's really starting to come together now. So the only thing we have left to sew on is the 6 white spots. So I'm going to pin these on and I'll give you the positions that I have mine in. So the front set of spots should cover rounds 5 to 8. The middle spot should be on rounds 9 to 11 and the ones right at the end are on rounds 12 to 14. So all I'm going to do is start sewing these on by weaving my needle in and out of both the body and the spot that I'm working on, and just continuing my way around the outside of the spot until it's all fastened down. Then I'm going to do my usual finishing off here, threading the needle through a hole in the stitches, tying my knot and then poking back through. And there you have it, that's one attached, and I'll just speed through sewing on the rest of them here. Now personally I like to leave the loose ends on each spot and sew them all in with their individual end, but you could also just keep one long end between all 6 and sew them on this way so that there's a little bit less tying and cutting to do. You can do it whatever way you prefer. This is just the way I like to do it, even though I know it's probably not the most efficient way. So here I am coming to an end of my sewing. Here's what you should have now, all the pieces put together, so we're really making some progress. So I'm going to get straight into the embroidery for the face here. I'm using black embroidery thread for this, and I'm going to poke the needle in underneath the body and poke it back out on the right side of the face in between rounds 2 and 3 and right in a hole that's basically level with the holes that you can see in your starting chain. I'm going to poke my needle back in through this very same hole and then immediately poke it back out in between rounds 3 and 4 in a hole that's just above my colour changes here. Then I'm going to catch the thread with my needle to keep it in place and form a sort of circle. So I'll poke my needle back into that hole I just came out of to fasten the loop over my thread. Then come back out in the place we started, which was between rounds 2 and 3, and repeat this again. So really all you're doing here is making a little oval shape and using one little loop to fasten it down, and then repeating this twice in total. So then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. I'm going to poke my needle out between rounds 2 and 3. And then go through rounds 3 and 4 slightly lower and put a stitch in over that yarn to hold it in place, and then repeating that one more time. Once you have the second eye, we're going to poke our needle in between rounds 2 and 3, right in the middle of our face, and just one stitch below the colour change here. Then we're going to take the thread all the way down to between rounds 5 and 6, poke it out in the hole just below the first stitch after the colour change. Then I'm going to poke the needle out between rounds 3 and 4 in a similar position below the colour change. And I'm going to use the same technique as before, where I just make a little loop here to hold the mouth in place and give it that nice curved look. Then I'll take myself back up to the middle of the mouth again and do the exact same on the other side. So I'm taking my thread down between rounds 5 and 6. Making my little stitch on top of the thread between rounds 3 and 4. And then once you've done this, you can take your thread, poke it back out through the bottom of the body, and finally fasten off. So you should have something like this when you're all done. Congratulations if you got to the end, you now have your own little Clodsire buddy to keep you company. I hope you enjoyed this pattern. I know this is a bit more of a difficult one with all those pesky colour changes on the body, so hopefully this video helps a little to clear up exactly how it all comes together. I'm still really new to making YouTube videos, so it's quite a learning curve for me too. I'd love to hear from you down in the comments, and I'll be making some more videos and tutorials in the future. Thank you so much for watching.